Salutations, donks. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the inaugural episode of Just Bleed Radio, a roundtable podcast brought to you by the official Morning Combat Discord. My name is Lazy, and joining me today are two of my intrepid co-hosts. First, he is the pride of England, our very own Count of Casuals, bringing a bit of English sensibility to an otherwise crass endeavor. I give you DangerMouse.
Hey up, folks. Greetings from Yorkshire.
Next, we have the Midwestern Mauler. Holding it down from Illinois to Colorado, he brings the bot because Chatri bless. It's SuperDave Fairtex.
Hey.
Unfortunately, we're short a man today as one of our regular co-hosts, No Special, could not be with us. Nevertheless, we march forward. On today's show, we'll be discussing UFC Fight Night Gone vs. Spivak, as well as a wide variety of other ramblings and musing. We appreciate every one of you for tuning in, sparing your time, and we gladly welcome all participation and feedback. Now, to that end. All right, folks, here we go. DangerMouse, how you doing, bud?
I'm as well as can be expected. My usual cheery English disposition.
Typical mouse. Dave, how about yourself?
Never better, actually. It's a sunny day. It's the end of the summer, but we still got nice warm temps. It's kind of smooth sailing.
Agreed. It's pretty fucking hot.
How are you doing? Ohio. That's what I want to know. How are you doing? Actually, LazyBed. How are you?
I'm roasting over here, bro. It's like 90 degrees in Ohio today. Has been for the last few days, and it's getting to me. I'm ready for fall. Topic 1. With the UFC's latest venture into Old Paris now in the rear view, did you see enough from Cyril Gane to say he's still a UFC heavyweight title contender? First, on this one, I think we'll go to Dave. Dave, what do you think? Yeah, did you see enough from Cyril Gane on Saturday night to say he's still a UFC heavyweight title contender?
Yes, he was still a UFC level heavyweight title contender before the last fight. The division is mostly garbage, and even after the John Jones loss, I had him in the top 5, and Jones was probably the only real problem for him. And to be a contender, you don't have to beat Jones; you just have to contend to him. So he's absolutely like right there, cream of the crop.
Yeah,
he would be a tier 1. Like, he's one of the very few tier 1 fighters in that division. Like, we'll say S tier is John Jones, and then we got a tier 1 would be like Gane, and maybe like overall, like, I don't know if we're ready to put Aspinall in there yet, but or actually they might even be tier 2. That's how shit the division is. They're like tier 2, and then like the rest of the division is tier 4. So yeah, he's still a contender. Or yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
And you think that he still has the ability to vie for a title even with John Jones as champion?
Well, to compete for a title, not to win a title. If John Jones retires, it's going to be either him or that Frank Mir dude.
All right, and Danger, how about yourself? Do you think that after last Saturday's showing in Paris, that Gane still has what it takes to fight for that UFC heavyweight gold?
I don't think I've learnt a great deal more than I already knew. I know he defended 1 or 2 attempts, takedown attempts from Spivak, but Spivak didn't look exactly great, so I don't think he really pushed him. Gane look, he's a very big guy. He moves very well. I have jokingly the last couple of days compared him to said he's the Nick Diaz of heavyweight MMA, because he does that same thing. He piles pressure on and just hits a lot. I don't think has that single punch KO power generally, but he will just wear you down with a few shots here and there, and then obviously when the opportunity arises, he'll stick something heavy in and hopefully try and finish you off. We need to see more of his grappling against someone who's really going to test it. Against the current crop, I doubt very much he'd beat Jones still, but I don't think we have to worry about that, because I think John will retire after his next fight. unless maybe he loses, I guess. But I think we can see a double retirement with him and Stipe, and that leaves Pavlovich and Aspinall, who are kind of the other top runners in the division. And I think probably both of them beat him. I don't think I think Aspinall. Obviously, I'm biased because Aspinall's English. I think Aspinall's got the wrestling. He's got the BJJ. He's got the striking. He's got to lower his chin because he doesn't stick that up in the air. But I think he has a very, very good chance of beating Gan. And Pavlovich has got that touch of death. He can beat anyone in heavyweight. He's only got to land one punch and you're going to sleep. I don't care.
No.
That guy? No.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I agree with the time Aspinall take, but I mean, Sergey ain't that guy. He's been beating up like scrubs. Like, he doesn't hit harder than Francis, and Francis couldn't KO Gan, and Gan nearly won that fight. Like,
yeah, but Francis.
I like your Aspinall take. Pavlovich, I don't think he's got anything for him. Like, I think Gan just fucking styles on him, point fights.
Don't forget that Francis had a knackered up leg when he fought Gan. That's why he wasn't moving around. So we don't really know how Gan would have done against a fully fit Francis, and he lost to a not fit Francis as well. So
I've seen their sparring sessions. Gan is the better striker. Like, I don't know if that fight goes much different, except for maybe Francis gets the takedown easier.
Yeah, I would agree that Gan is probably the technically better striker. I mean, he did start his career in kickboxing or Muay Thai. I forget which one. I think it was kickboxing he officially started as. So a technical striker, I'm sure he's better than Pavlovich. But he does, like I said, he doesn't have that power, and it only takes one mistake against somebody who hits that hard.
I guess he made any mistake. I guess he maybe made some mistakes in the Tuivasa fight, but normally he doesn't really get hit clean and that hard. Like, I think his striking's level is above Pavlovich's.
Yeah,
I think that during that Tuivasa side, we got to see a side of Gan that we've yet to see much of. You know, he got lured into that firefight a little bit, and that's sort of where he ate the most shots.
Yeah, kind of cost you the win too a little bit, which is great.
Yeah, in a sense, I liked seeing it though because it showed that he does have that killer instinct that it sometimes seems like he lacks.
Here's my thing, like, Pavlovich is good, but I don't give like two fucks about the guy. Like, do any of you guys really care about him?
I very rarely care about very many fighters, to be fair. They are fighters. I want to see them fight. I'm not going to get emotionally attached to very many fighters.
Like, if Sergey wins a title, who gives a fight? It's like, okay, we got this guy that's a champion who doesn't really do anything. He just was a champion.
I guess he'll be big in Russia, but yeah,
I would love to see the damage that he would wreak on the division though, because as Danger said, that guy's got dynamite in his hands, and it doesn't take much. I mean, I can only imagine with him at the top, there'd be some exciting pay-per-views in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, plus it is heavyweight. They're always kind of coin flip fights in certain respects when you get the two big guys in the cage. They can generally put each other to sleep with a single well-landed punch. So, but I just don't see that for Gan very much. Like I said, it's accumulated damage with him. He doesn't not seem to have that one punch KO power.
He's not really throwing for one punch KO power though. Like, I understand where you're coming from, and I see the analogy, but it's like I don't think he's really attempted to KO someone in one punch. So
yeah,
we might not know. That's speculation. We might not know.
It does seem to be more of that Diaz death by 1,000 cuts approach, but that could just be tactics. It's easy to break your hand in there with those little gloves.
Plus, you tend to overextend if you miss while you're throwing a big shot, or you put yourself in range. It's easier just to kind of sit out there and pop.
Yeah, you leave yourself out of position at heavyweight, and things can end badly quick. I'd say, as far as my observations, as to whether or not Gone still has title contention possibilities. As far as the fight goes, he did show that he's still one of, if not the most feared strikers in the heavyweight division. He's accurate, he's poised, he's got elite level footwork for a man his size. He danced around the polar bear like he was doing French ballet. He picked his shots on the way to a nice TKO. Despite his grappling acumen, Spivak's lumbering nature couldn't wrangle Cyril at any point in the fight. He was unable to get a hold of Bongamin. Sergey found himself eating pot shots the majority of the bout, and he was exposed by this level of competition, I would say. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see if Gane has made those necessary improvements in his grappling and submission defense, though it now seems clear that the Jones fight may have been more of a mental defeat than anything. It seemed like he was done by the time he'd got in the cage.
Yeah, I was asking people that question. Do you think he was scared of Jones? And I think that was the case. The reputation of Jones got to him, and he just froze up when he got into the cage. And obviously, we saw what happened.
Yeah, and then you look at him now, and it's like all those thoughts of, is he washed? Is he done? Should he just call it a day? That seems to be a bit of crazy talk.
Well, call me crazy, but I don't think he was that much intimidated. I think he was ill prepared. I think Fernand Lopez or whatever is not the highest or even a high level MMA coach, and they just they didn't expect John to like work his way to like back 3/4 mount or whatever and like choke him out and like get behind him. Like, I think he's just not that most experienced coach. And then when it happened, they're like, all right, we're gonna start bringing in these level of fighters and address this issue. So I personally think it was more game plan and overall skill than being intimidated.
I have questions. I have questions about Gane's desire to be the heavyweight championship. Quite frankly, he seems like he's drifted through his sports career, being very, he's obviously 6'4", 6'5", whatever he is, naturally gifted, athletic, all the rest of it, strong. But he doesn't really seem to have applied himself very much. He started off doing football, and then he kind of drifted away from that. Then he went to basketball, and he couldn't afford to, or rather, he couldn't make time to do the training for that. So that's how he got into kickboxing. And then from kickboxing, he went to the gym where he's training at the moment and got into the MMA style of things. So I just wonder about his motivations. If you're not willing to find a way that you want to train at something you really, really want to be good at, then you're not a champion level material, because a real champion will find a way to make that time. You get professional, the guys who've been in the gym and just go in there and work training students, junior classes. They sleep at the gym just because they want to keep training. And I don't think Gane has that in him. I think everything comes a little bit easy to him. He doesn't have to work to it, so he doesn't work that hard. I might be doing him an injustice there, but that's just from his interview that he had with the UFC. That was the impression I got of him. He's very laid back.
That seems to sort of be the common thought around him, that he's so gifted, he's been able to coast, and because of that, he doesn't really embrace the grind. He doesn't have that dog in him.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never really thought of that take before, but I actually am really coming around to it now that you said it. It's like he's a gifted athlete. He's always just kind of been like half in on all of his previous ventures, and his natural ability takes him so far, and then like when the going gets tough, he just kind of bails, and so that's kind of been a trend in his life. And so he hasn't bailed, but I mean, I think that's actually a really good take. He's just not in it. He doesn't have the drive or the heart, or he's never been forced to, or when he's been forced to actually put a bunch of work and actually level up and put in 100%, he's kind of been like, all right, I'm going to go do something else now.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you compare to, say, Francis, obviously not with the UFC anymore, but he came from Cameroon. He probably got on a boat and made his way across the Mediterranean to France. He slept on the streets, I think, to start off with. Finally got himself into doing some boxing and then into MMA. And obviously his career's gone from strength to strength kind of thing, with the surprising result of getting a Fury fight sorted out, which I think took everyone by surprise. But Francis really, really wanted that, and he obviously has worked really, really hard to get it. And like I said, I just don't see the same thing with Gan.
I think that's a good place to leave off on that topic right there.
Okie dokie.
Good way to wrap up that segment. All right, let's move on to segment 2. And seeing as we wrapped up with DangerMouse, we will go to Dave again here for the initial reply. For this question, I'm going to ask, after nearly a year and a half away and up a weight class, what were your takeaways in regards to how Rose Namajunas looked as a 31-year-old flyweight?
My takeaways were that she is not a flyweight. She is a strawweight fighting at flyweight. It looked like she didn't cut weight. She didn't put on much size. And I think until she gets her corner figured out and her coaching situation figured out, like she's done, she's not physical enough and strong enough and big enough to hang with these girls like she was at 115 pounds. At 150 pounds, she had a size advantage, and her range really worked well for her. And that's not the case in the division. And she's not getting good corner advice currently. And I don't know. I think that she's still a 115 fighter, just kind of fucking off.
So you think that she's basically a puffed up 115er?
She's not even puffed up. She's just not cutting weight. Like
She's a
she
bloated
probably weighed the same
115er.
on fight. She probably weighed closer on fight night as she did when she fought at strawweight. She just didn't cut that much. That's all speculation. I don't know what her actual weigh-ins were, but she didn't really look that bigger. And she actually was out-muscled for like one of the first times in her career pretty handedly. So, well, besides Andrade, but Andrade doesn't count. She's a fucking tank.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when they got face-to-face in the cage, the size difference was pretty apparent. When they took that face off, man, whew.
Yeah, that was
Fiora
a big
was a
difference.
large lady. DM, how do you feel about this? After her long absence, did Rose show you anything?
It's very difficult to say. Like you said, there was obviously a size difference. I don't necessarily think 125 is the best weight for her, but I guess she can put on some weight and maybe bulk up and get into it. Obviously, we had the huge problem that she mashed her pinky finger up in the first round, so it's very difficult to tell from that. She could, obviously, it was difficult to do a takedown, I would imagine, when you're screaming in agony because your finger's being ripped around. And similarly, punching someone with a broken finger can't be very much fun either. So I didn't get a lot from it, to be honest. It's very difficult to make an assessment of Rose. Fiora looked pretty good, I guess. She handled Rose reasonably well.
Yeah, all my takeaways from this fight were mostly based around Fiora.
Yeah,
like
and
she looked
obviously
a lot
with
better
the cornering thing, Rose herself has said that the reason she wasn't at elevation is because Trevor is moving gym at the moment, so she didn't want to be involved in that, in being caught up in that movement and the hassle of being involved in that. So that's apparently why she moved camp, at least according to what she said on a video I saw today.
I heard her say something completely different.
When she gets back to Trevor, maybe she'll show more, but I can't really say much more than that on this fight.
What were you saying, Dave? What did you hear?
I heard her say something completely different. It's the reason why I watched a video of her give like a completely different reason of why she wasn't with Trevor. She said, the video I saw, she said Trevor was training with Gaethje for the BMF fight, and it was a big fight. And so she didn't want to disturb that. And so she kind of did her own thing or whatever. And that sounded like a bunch of nonsense to me, because Trevor's worked multiple high-level fighters on the same night, on the same card. Like, he can do two training camps at once.
Yeah, he did Usman, Gaethje, and Rose on the same night. I forget which UFC it was. But yeah.
Sounds like she's got a laundry list of excuses as to why he wasn't there.
Yeah,
well, here's the thing. Recently, like in between rounds, Like when Pat Barry and Trevor Whitman were there, it'd be like 90% Pat talking shit, and then like
Yeah.
Whitman only gets a few seconds to say what he wants, and then he's trying to give advice in between rounds, but Pat Barry's like screaming like a wild man, and you can't hear nothing, and he's not a high level coach, and so it's like you have to kind of throw in the towel or like back out sometimes. It's like I'm traveling, I'm sacrificing my time, I'm not even able to get fucking my plan in. You're not listening to me. He's taking up all the
Yeah.
time. He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
That could be something to do with it. I think we've seen the same video, Dave, but I'm pretty sure she would mention that Trevor was moving from his current elevation location to somewhere different.
I do remember during the Rose and Carla fight, between rounds, it seemed like they were giving conflicting information. Almost
Yeah,
like,
and it was mostly Pat Barry. And
yeah. Pat was saying, you hear those boos, that means it's working. And Trevor's over there actually trying to give her sound advice. That's got to be tough dealing with your fighter's husband.
Yeah, I would
yeah,
imagine so.
and like after the first round of the fight last weekend, the first thing he said was after you don't need your left hand, he was like, "You're doing great," or like, "You're doing good." Like this is what our plan was, and it's like you lost that round on all three judges' scorecards. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
As far as my takeaways here, I say that, despite soldiering through an injured right pinky, Namajunas definitely appeared outsized, outmuscled, and possibly even outclassed. The discrepancy in size and strength seemed evident throughout the fight, with Rose wearing the majority of the damage aside from a violent head clash that, of course, left Fior bloodied. Manon remained poised after the accidental foul and carried on with the game plan, handedly beating Thug Rose on a fight that I personally had scored 29-28. What the future holds for Rose seems unclear, as usual, but it's safe to say that the Beast has her sights firmly set on a shot at championship gold.
Yeah, quite. Will she be up against Blanchfield next, or are we looking at someone different? So I guess we have to get a number one contender.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this Valentina and Grasso fight shakes out, what that means for this division.
Yeah, that is a good point.
If Valentina wins, depending on how it plays out, there might be a third fight, and Blanchfield might have to fight Furo, unless they just want to sit out or take other fights against randoms.
Yeah, I hadn't really considered the thought of a trilogy.
No, neither had I. Another rematch.
Is it warranted, though?
Well, like, what if Valentina outpoints Grasso and wins a decision, but it was like a shit decision, like Machida versus fucking Shogun 1 decision or some shit like that. Then you have to, because she stopped her the first fight and it was like a fucked up decision. You kind of have to.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
Yeah,
If
it
Go ahead, DM.
If it went 3-2, 3-2 judges decision, I could see another rematch there, I guess. Then again, Grasso hasn't had the belt for very long, so does she deserve another rematch if she loses?
That was kind of my thought, but Dave made a good point that if Valentina wins a total snoozer and say it is a split decision or something like that, and Grasso finished her the way that she did in spectacular fashion, I don't know. Maybe that is the money fight.
Well, also, we're ending like the end of the Valentina era. Like, she's probably not going to be around that much longer. Grasso is still kind of young, and then we got all these young and up-and-coming fighters. I think the UFC machine is going to be more looking into like hyping up what's new rather than what's going out. Because obviously, Valentina is not the same fighter since her head and arm throws don't work that well anymore.
The standard of women's MMA,
Yeah.
head and arm throw.
All right.
We do seem to be moving into a slightly new area where we seem to be getting a lot of younger fighters coming through now to challenge for the belts.
Almost a new wave.
Yeah, the next generation.
It seems to happen every 10 years or so in MMA.
Yeah, it only really makes sense.
Valentina's been fighting a long time. Like, people thought that she was, either the best or the second best fighter in bantamweight. And that was maybe, 5 years ago now? I'm not sure how long flyweights been around, but
Yeah, and I can't imagine how many years total she's been competing with the Muay Thai and all the various kickboxing and.
well, at least since like age 10, because I think that's when she first went with Coach Pavlov.
Yeah,
Antonina was like in her younger teens, so that's like 30 or 20 years. Fucking shit.
yeah. Her body's got to be beat to fuck.
Yeah, I would think so.
And also, just the younger fighters now are training more complete MMA. I mean, Valentina's always been a really good complete MMA fighter, but a lot of her fights that she won were against fighters that were like okay in one area and like suspect in the rest. And now we're starting to get fighters that are like okay in most areas and maybe actually pretty good in one. So it's kind of like a whole different level of competitor now with these younger girls coming up.
True. And it's a bit of a touchy subject, but you have to consider also that it's different for women's MMA when it comes to whether or not you want to start a family and whether or not you want to have children. It's easy for a male MMA fighter to continue his career throughout that process, but if Valentina wants to ever have a family or something along those lines, this is
Yeah, they definitely have a cut-off point if they want to take that route.
yeah, it's prime time for motherhood right now.
Yeah. So I was just going to say the age thing doesn't matter quite so much. So it doesn't seem to matter quite so much to women. They seem to be able to go up to that 35, 36, maybe even a little longer and carry on. Whereas the guys, a lot of the time, especially at the lighter weights, they're 33, 34. They're starting to get to the end of their careers, I would say, or they're into the twilight of it, if not at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Moving right along, we're going to push this thing segment number 3. And we'll lead off with DM on this one, despite him having just ended. With MMA now legal and flourishing in France, is the French market proving to be a viable or profitable location for UFC to regularly return to and host major events?
I can't speak on how much. I mean, I'm presuming they've probably had a record gate in Paris this weekend, or last weekend, should I say. But is it going to be profitable? Yeah, I think so. The French fans absolutely love it. The crowds are off the scale. They were brilliant at the last fight, and then the first time they had a UFC in Paris, they blew the roof off that stadium. The only crowd I can really compare it to was the British crowd when we came out of COVID and we had the first London show after COVID, and that crowd was very loud. And then even as an Englishman, I must say that the French crowd were louder and more enthusiastic, singing the national anthem while the fighters are fighting, and just crazy levels of enthusiasm. So yeah, I'm sure there will be a regular regular show on the UFC's roster each year. I can't see them missing France for a year. It's just too popular at the moment.
Yeah, it seems to be a hotbed for sure.
Yeah, and it can only grow the game. The more cards they have, the more fighters they'll get growing up and getting into the sport. So it should just be self-perpetuating almost. More fighters, more shows, more fighters, more shows. So yeah, I would say Paris or France as a general is going to be very successful to the UFC.
Yeah. All right, Dave, what do you think? You think France has got a real future as far as it comes to UFC events?
Do I think France has a real future as it comes to UFC events?
Yeah,
Did you watch
think
the
that we're
card?
going to see? Do you think?
Did you
All
watch
right, I
it?
didn't know you were being smart, bud. Go ahead.
I've never heard anything like that. They've got a huge market. Maybe not for 4 times a year, but they could easily do 2 times a year and sell the shit out of it. Like, I've never heard an audience like that in MMA. They fucking killed it.
The question more so is, do you think that they'll make this an annual event? Do you think that they'll return to Paris yearly?
It'll be an annual event as long as fucking Cyril gone and maybe like you still got Saint Denis and some other French fighters. Yeah, it'll absolutely be annual.
I mean, if I can jump in again, for Europe, it's essentially is the UK, and now it seems to be France as well. So, and then obviously they can move around the world for that gives them another 10 cards they can do in other countries if they want to do an actual numbered UFC event there. Obviously, if they're doing fight nights, they can have as many as they want within reason. So yeah, I can see it being big on the UFC's European scene for sure.
Yeah.
And Dave just mentioned him, Benoit Saint-Denis. If he continues the way he is doing, he's going to be a big star. I think he needs to tighten up his defense a little bit, but he seems to have the go and he's a beast, quite frankly.
Yeah,
especially with that
the guy's a
special
juggernaut.
forces background. Yeah, he has the willpower. We know he has the willpower because he's done special forces training. And those guys don't quit very easily, if at all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I got a quick question. Did either of you see his fight with Ezekiel Dos Santos guy, or his first fight that he lost
in the UFC?
Yeah, it's the only fight he lost in his career. Yeah, but it was his first fight in the UFC.
I did see it, but I can't remember very much about it. And I know it must have stuck with me because I remembered his name and.
Yeah, I guess it was like a bludgeoning. I looked up the stats and it was pretty one-sided. But I mean, dude looks like a freaking killer from that point on. I'm actually pretty excited to see what's next for him.
Yeah, obviously he's in a lethal weight class at the moment, being a lightweight. But again, we're at that stage of the lightweights where the current crowd are getting ready to move on. They're getting up into their high 30s. Someone's going to have to come along behind them and start doing big things in the division. So yeah, why not Benoit Saint-Denis?
Seems the turnover rate is about to increase at lightweight.
Very likely.
Well, once they finally get what's his face Sarukian out of the fucking rankings, you might be getting someone.
Fucking asshole, Armin.
Yeah.
No, I think for me personally, that the Paris topic is my favorite topic that we're going to discuss today. Fucking Paris was electric, and that's fitting because it's the city of lights. To say that crowd was lit the hell up would be an understatement. It was a packed house from start to finish. The prelims to the main event, the whole fucking stadium was a madhouse. There was times when I felt like I was watching a football or a soccer match. It was fucking beautiful. There was plenty of pageantry, national support. France showed out in full-throated totality.
Yeah, I love it when you get to the prelims and the crowd's already there. The entire stadium's packed.
It was packed.
Yeah, that shows that the crowd are really behind it. You're in for a good night when they're there that early.
I was waiting for the flares and fireworks to start going off.
So that brings up a question. Is like the meme, is France like being a bunch of pussies and shit? Like, obviously that's all bullshit. Is that done now? Like, are we past that? And now France is like one of the boys?
I think ragging on the French is a general joke, to be fair. Being
you
an
don't think we'll ever get past that?
Well, I'm English, so we're never going to get past that. We always rag on the French.
Oh, man, danger. Oh, man, you're holding grudges.
No, the French are the same with us. It's that we don't actually. Certainly from my point of view, it's mainly just a joke. It's a meme. Hating on the French is a meme.
Yeah, meme's fun.
Yeah, so I don't have any hatred for French people whatsoever.
Does Paris really smell like piss?
I've never actually been to Paris. So.
That's always been what I heard.
Amsterdam probably does because they have toilets in the street. But
oh my! I actually heard there's a I don't know what it is, a medical condition of some sort that people experience when they go to Paris where if you've romanticized Paris in your mind and you actually go visit, the difference between how you imagined it and how it actually is so great that there's a type of melancholy or depression that you only get from that. I forget what the fuck it's called.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I was just reading about it recently.
It's a very messed up city at the moment with the, well, let's not go into that, but yeah.
Another podcast, another time.
What's messed up about it?
Hmm?
What's the problem? We've got an hour and 6 minutes. Let's just.
I forget. I saw an article a while back, and that had a lot of, obviously Europe is experiencing a mass wave of immigration from Africa coming across the Mediterranean boats, and I know a few months back I think where the French keep their government, the square in front of that was just full of tents, from these people that have come over. So it's not a city I would want to visit at the moment.
Okay.
And then obviously it had the riots a few weeks, a couple of months ago, wherever it was, where half the city was burning down. So yeah, it wouldn't be high on my places to visit.
We'll take it from a man who knows.
I'm not sure if I know, but
well, here's the closest thing we've got.
Well,
yeah.
Have you ever visited anywhere, DangerMouse?
Yeah, I've in Europe, I've been to Spain, Holland, Austria, Germany, Italy, various times. So yeah, I've been through France. I've just never stopped in France, and it was a long time ago when I did go to France. Or through France, should I say? So Europe was a lot different. Back when I went through France, you couldn't just drive across Europe. You used to have to show your passport to get between the different states.
Oh yes.
Countries. So, but now it's all Schengen area, so you can drive around Europe once you hit the mainland. No one's going to stop you. You can drive right across. Pretty much until you hit Russia or somewhere like that.
Is it true that you can drive most anywhere in a day?
I worked in Germany, and we set off in the morning and drove from where I live, kind of Yorkshire area, middle of England, slightly of the north of England, and we drove across it, caught the ferry, drove through France, went up to Belgium, drove down into Germany, and got to our hotel in Germany. That was a single day.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah.
So you lived in England and you worked in Germany?
Yeah, I worked for a company, and they arranged for us to do. We were working for a stock taking company, and they had a contract with the British Army that you've been in Chair Force, Dave, so you'll probably know you have stores on the bases, and that's what we went over. We went over to count the stuff that was in the stores. So we did that on German Army bases. I can't remember how many we covered, but we were there for about 10 days or so. Fantastic trip. I really enjoyed it. Drank a lot of beer, played a lot of poker, counted a lot of stock.
All right, well, we got one segment left if we want to tackle it. It's a pretty basic one. It's just our overall individual fighters of the night. So, whoever wants to go first, Dave, I think that you're up to go first. So, who do you got?
I don't want to go first because my fighter of the night has already been discussed in length. If someone has something, if not,
I'll go first. Fuck it, I haven't gone first yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, throw yourself in.
My fighter of the night, and I'm probably gonna butcher his name because I haven't heard John Anik pronounce it yet. Morgan Charrier, the guy who fought Zucchini. Yeah, that was fucking awesome. What a way to open the main card. That body kick was fucking violent. I love body kicks to grounded opponents or semi-grounded opponents. Yeah, I just thought that he looked awesome, despite his record not being that great. If I recall correctly, he had 9 losses coming in. But, some local French flavor. He had a nice showing. I liked that aggressiveness, so hope to see more out of Morgan Charrier.
Yeah, I picked against him for some reason. I really should have picked all French fighters for that card, but
Yeah, seemed to be the case.
He did look very good.
Who you got, DM? You got a fighter of the card?
I think the one I was most impressed. I could go for two. I'm just looking at the prelims card now. Where the things. Jacqueline Cavalcanti, I thought did very well against Sarah Fain, who was another huge woman. But I was kind of confused why Fain was there with a 6-5 record.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, but Cavalcanti looked very good. I'm just like, I've got the scorecard. She won at every round. Very light on her feet. Very good with her kicks and punches. So I was quite impressed with her. And, of course, Farid Basharat as well, with that very nice arm triangle choke against Cledson Rodriguez.
Yeah, Cavalcante, I believe she was LFA women's champion of I'm not sure which division.
Yeah, I think they did talk about her. She won something else in the past.
Yeah, was this her debut, UFC debut? I don't know.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
She doesn't appear to have a Wikipedia page.
I'm just looking at
check typology.
How about you, Dave? You got, who do you got?
All right. Well, originally my fighter of the card was actually not going to be a fighter, and it was going to be the Paris audience because I never heard anything like that. But since we carded him already, I'm going to go with kind of a curveball and say Jocelyn Edwards. I thought she actually looked good. She looked better than normal. I thought that she won the fight, even though she lost it. She's constantly improving every fight. I think she's a good bantamweight. She certainly leveled up her hair game and kind of looks like in the past with that really goofy hair. It's like, how do you get behind someone like that? But now that she's like, got some real hair and not doing like the meme things or whatever she was doing. And I'm just going out there and she's giving 100%. She's trying to be violent. She got robbed. I thought she looked great in the process. And, I didn't see too much notable performances outside of like Ferro and Gone, but we've already covered them. And a lot of people expected that. So I'll go with the loser, one of the bigger losers of the night.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm looking at her record and stuff right now, and she seems to be pretty active. She had 3 fights in 21, 2 fights in 22, and she's now had 2 fights in 23. So
yeah, and I mean, in that fight, like the tweets, like the social media engagement for that whole event, like skyrocketed. Like you can look at social media engagement throughout the card. It was kind of like low, and then when Jocelyn Edwards fought, it like spiked. I don't know if people were into the her figure or whatnot, but
her new hairdo.
Yeah, it's a new storyline after this fight. Before, when she was rocking that really short hair, like people weren't talking about Jocelyn Edwards. They're talking about her now.
Yeah, she is currently 4-3 in the UFC.
Well, that loss shouldn't have counted because I mean, there was a bunch of fucking fucked up 30-27 cards on the whole fight night. Like some of them, I mean, we're supposed to be looking at impact now and like immediate damage over sustained damage, and there was just some of the worst 30-27 scorecards I've seen. Fortunately, I think the right fighter won in all those situations, but still, there might be a judging problem in France that needs to get addressed.
Yeah, that was actually going to be our original closing topic. If you guys want to touch on that, the various controversies with judging and reffing for the Paris card.
Yeah, as Dave said, the judges were definitely looking for impact. I forget which fight it was now, but there was one I wasn't sure if the judges might have given it to someone else, to the fighter I didn't think was winning that round, just because he did land. I think there was a lot of grappling, and then right at the end of it, he kind of came forward and hit, and I was wondering if it snatched the round just because he was being more violent. As it happened, the judges didn't score it for the striking fighter. I've just accidentally closed my list of who was on the card down there.
I will say that
So
despite some of the controversy, it seemed like they were at least consistent in their bad judging. In their,
Yeah.
So here's the thing. In Las Vegas, they can review the fight ending sequence and they can alter the outcome of the fight and make it a no contest. They can't restart it. In France and overseas, normally the UFC acts as their own commission, but they didn't use that rule. They didn't or maybe they did review the footage and they didn't say. But I mean, reviewing the footage, clearly it was a groin strike and it should have been like a no contest. I mean, I guess that's all you can do is a no contest because you can't you can't restart the fight after the review process. Or what the ref should have done
That's
is
what I was
just,
going to say.
call the timeout and restarted it. Because I mean, the refs are so goddamn inconsistent with whether or not they let the fighters call timeouts. You're not supposed to, but like 9 times out of 10, fighters get to call timeouts for illegal shots, which I kind of understand because it's a visual cue to pick up on,
Yeah, I
So,
think the referee kind of jumped in a little bit too quick. He should have just, pulled him around and go, are you ready to continue or not? And he didn't. He just, when he turned away, it was like, that's it, the fight's over. But when you looked at the footage close up, that the kick was on target, but he definitely brushed the cup on the way in.
no, and I know in some commissions, when they go to the replay, isn't the fight immediately ends, right?
Yeah, so it should have been a no
Yeah.
contest.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
So that's sort of the controversy here is that we went to the replay, and rather than
I
it
don't
being
even know
another
if they went to the
contest,
replay. Like the commentary insinuated they might go to the replay, but they never confirmed it. And like I'm not sure what athletic commission they're using, if any. And UFC normally copies the Vegas standards, and the Vegas standards is to view the replay. But
yeah,
I mean, and the replay seemed obvious, but I mean, they stuck with the original ending and didn't mention anything about the replay or nothing like that. So it's still a little sus. The whole athletic commission overseas.
it seemed a bit peculiar because I remember the stoppage for the foul, and then it was like right before, like when the fight would have resumed, the ref just called it off.
Yeah.
If I recall.
Yeah, as I say, when he kicked it, he got kicked. He turned away from the ref, and that's when the referee pretty much stopped it. He didn't give him any
Like a
chance
TKO
to
loss.
Yeah,
He didn't give him any time at all after the kick.
No, he didn't. Because
he immediately ruled it as a fair blow. Like, fuck it, it's a fair blow.
Yeah, he didn't give the fighter any chance to say, "Look, I got kicked in the nuts. Give me a second."
I must have been.
The one I was just on about, it was Kalen Loughran, or however you pronounce his name. That was the one I thought they might have given Lapillus all 3 rounds, but they didn't. They scored it 29-28.
Loughran, he was the block-headed Irishman, right?
Yeah, 6-0 when he went into it. Obviously 6-1 now. But yeah, it wasn't a particularly close fight. He didn't do enough to win it.
I mean, overall, I would say, the card was decent as we got towards the top, but not the best. But for that week of a card, Paris to still show out like that, that's a good sign for the future.
Yeah, I mean, there was
the audience was the MVP. They sold the card. Like it seemed like a huge, big event, even though it was kind of shit.
Yeah, it felt like a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that crowd was.
Yeah, every fight on the main card had a finish. So, apart from Manuel Fierro and Rose, that was the only decision on the entire main card.
Yeah, I didn't hate the Rose fight though. I thought it may not have been the biggest barn burner, but it was still fun to watch.
It wasn't for me because I picked Rose, but I said I wouldn't if I'd known Trevor wasn't there. But
picks aside, though, I mean,
Pat Barry.
What does the future hold for Pat Barry?
Why don't you take a seat?
Hi, Pat. Come on in and sit down.
Like, he might be the worst coach in MMA. Like, I don't even think he's a real MMA coach. He's just a fighter that fucking.
he wasn't the brightest as a fighter. So
Yeah.
look at the Czech Congo fight. One of the
I
wildest
can
fights.
kind of understand that loss. Like, there was a lot of adrenaline in that shit. It was pretty wild, but
Well, that's it. He brings that same adrenaline to the corner,
yeah.
which is, it does. I guess it kind of balances out when Trevor's there because Trevor's got that calm demeanor. But
Well, Trevor doesn't get much time. It's like,
yeah.
I don't think it does balance out. I think there's too much Pat Barry.
There you have it, donks. Your first edition of Just Bleed Table podcast discussion brought to you courtesy of the official Morning Combat Discord. I'd like to thank my co-hosts SuperDave and DangerMouse with a special nod to the man they call No Special. Be sure to tune in next week to catch our full ensemble. Shout out to the leader of the ship, our Pickle King, Captain V. Unfortunately, we ran out of time today and weren't able to get him on. Our apologies. Until we meet again, a speed.
Man, fuck Captain B.